Hello, SpongicX here, and before we get started on today's video, I just wanted to make a little update. So, previously I had to basically scrap my previous video capture device. I used to use an Elgato HD60S, but it's been really unreliable lately. There are times where, despite how it's displaying on the computer, when I record, it comes out as a blank video or a stuttering video, sometimes even glitchy, and so I gave up on it, and I was able to find a more affordable and honestly a better performing capture card called an EV3A XR1. It's only $80, so it's still expensive, but compared to $200 for the Elgato, it was a good deal. The only criticism I have with it is it's not very good for, like, if you want to do, like, live commentary, because, if you're wearing headphones and, having it output while you're playing the game, while you're recording and all that, it causes the audio to sound out of sync. Like, it'll record just fine, but, like, when it comes to receiving through the headphone end, the audio will be delayed, so when I tried playing the game I'm about to talk about, it was really distracting, because it's a game where it kind of relies on studying the sound effects in certain parts, and, you know, it helps you concentrate better, and so, when you're collecting rings, like, and the sound effect, like, happens a few seconds later, it's really distracting. So, I don't know, for right now, I'm gonna have to try doing it the old-fashioned way, where I add audio in later. And so, I figured, since this is kind of a lengthy game, I figured I'd do something different. It's going to start off with a review, basically, and then it's going to be my gameplay with a few commentary here and there. And so, anyways, I think this is a video that's long overdue. Sonic Unleashed. So, Sonic Unleashed is considered by many one of the last, like, great Sonic games, before Sonic Colors kind of made the series a little more casual. Dumbed down, I guess is the best way to put it. For me, Sonic Unleashed was the last game I remembered being, like, real excited about story-wise. I remember, you know, like, I was hyped for Sonic Generations, but in the end, kinda underwhelmed. Not by the gameplay, but definitely the story. For what was supposed to be a big celebration of Sonic games, it felt kinda rushed and half-assed. So, Sonic Unleashed, on the other hand, this one felt like a movie at times. Like, the visuals were amazing for the most part, just the opening cutscene alone, and so that's one thing that was great about the Sonic movie too. Like, during the final battle, it's like, oh, if you love the opening cutscene of Sonic Unleashed, it might remind you of it in the Sonic movie. But, so, Sonic Unleashed, this is a game I honestly feel very mixed about, and to be clear, I'm talking about the Xbox 360 version, but I'm playing it for the first time on Xbox Series S. And for those who don't know, if you're playing it on the Xbox Series S or X, the game has been updated to run smoother on that, because the game has had some pretty annoying frame rate issues on the original game, especially in the Adabat level, and so it runs so much smoother on the Xbox Series S. Still has a bit of, like, it still slows down occasionally, but it doesn't feel as distracting as it did before. The original one, it was easy to die when it slowed down, so here it's more manageable. And so for the most part, yeah, it runs a lot smoother on Series S. It loads a little bit faster too, especially during the Eggman Land level. When it comes to swapping between day and night, it happens almost instantly now. You still have to wait a bit when it comes to, like, waiting on some of the loading screens and all that. Otherwise, it does feel like it goes by a little quicker than it did before. So, yeah, the improvements they did are really nice, and I know a lot of people have been begging Sega to make an HD remaster or even a PC port, so it doesn't sound like Sega's interested, but at least they have the decency to update it for Xbox owners, so it almost feels like, for Xbox owners at least, they don't need a remaster of it. They already got it if you have a Series S or X. Unfortunate for PlayStation and PC owners, of course, but at least Xbox owners are happy. So, Sonic Unleashed, this is a game I feel very mixed about, because there are parts of it I like, but parts of it I absolutely hate, and I honestly do think Sonic Colors, Generations, and Forces are considered very similar games in vein to the gameplay of Unleashed, and I feel like Sonic Generations actually did the game better. It took a lot of the controls from Sonic Unleashed, but it actually polished them up and made them more fun to use, easier to use. Sonic Colors was definitely the easiest of the bunch. well, like, in the functionality at least, like, I think Sonic Forces, that was, like, brain dead easy, but it was so faulty, like, the controls were awful in that game, so I'd say, you know, Sonic Generations really improved the controls of, Sonic Unleashed. Sonic Colors really simplified it, and then Sonic Forces ruined it. So what I mean by that is so this was the first of what is known as the Boost Sonic games, where it got rid of the original Sonic Adventure 3D formula, which, in my opinion, was kind of a downgrade. Like, there are times where the Boost gameplay is fun. It is cool to be able to use the Boost attack and keep running forward and sometimes smash through enemies and all that, but I feel like a lot of these levels just aren't designed for it. There are a lot of levels where they want you to, you know, while boosting, like to get across water or something, you gotta steer left or right, and it's like Sonic's turning doesn't feel responsive at times, and the drifting mechanic is broken. There's so many times where they want you to drift, and you do that, and he just slides off, so it really forces you to have to just stop boosting and move slower just to get around these stupid parts, and I felt like Sonic Generations actually fixed that gameplay a lot when it comes to the drifting mechanics, and also like how some of the levels, they kind of have Sonic like moving automatically to help like move along the track, so it makes steering him a little bit easier. I still have a complaint with how the controls are in Sonic Generations. I still think Sonic moves a little too stiffly and sluggishly compared to like how he moved in like the adventure games, which were a lot looser. So, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the Boost gameplay when it comes to the controls. That, and I don't really like the camera controls either. They're just way too stiff, and there's practically no point in having camera controls in this game because you can barely control it. It just like pans it up, down, left, or right. It doesn't rotate like in the adventure games or Sonic 06. And yeah, I'll even admit, I think Sonic 06 had a better camera than Unleashed, and it's especially more distracting in the Werehog stages, but I'll get to that later. So, another big complaint I have with the controls in this game is the homing attack, where in previous games you had to keep pressing the jump button for him to do the homing attack. In this one, they turned it into the X button, which is the same button as the boost button. And that can be really distracting. There are times where you mean to use the boost to home onto an enemy, but instead Sonic misses it and just boosts to his death, and that's really distracting. One thing I do like about this, though, is they did do like a big fix that was a huge problem in both Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic 06, and that was the Lightspeed Dash. Originally, they had it share the same attack as Sonic's bounce attack, which they replaced his bounce attack with a stomp attack, so it's not as fun as being able to bounce the ball and move around, but I still appreciate how they gave it to the Y button for the Lightspeed Dash, so that way you don't have to accidentally risk dropping to your death because the Lightspeed Dash didn't respond properly. So that was a nice improvement that's carried on into many Sonic games since. Although the Lightspeed Dash is barely used anymore, like it was only used like once in Sonic Generations, unfortunately. And there were ways to get around that section, in fact, but, so, either way, though, Sonic Unleashed, it was a promising idea, but it felt like a huge downgrade from, you know, I grew up with the adventure era, so I liked, being able to, feel like you were more in control of Sonic and levels. I liked being able to use the spin dash to build up speed, let it go, and just, you know, it's so fun to, like, run up a hill and then build up a bunch of energy to roll down the hill really fast, and part of me wishes, you know, there's a way they could have mixed the gameplay together. Have it where it controls more like, the old Sonic games, but then have the boost gameplay, kick in at times, so imagine how cool it would have been if you could, like, you know, like, boost up a hill and then all of a sudden build up a spin dash, and then, when it's about to run out, you can then activate the boost to get, like, an extra burst of speed. It's like, that would have been a really cool compromise, but nope, they got rid of the spin dash, and it's been missing in so many games ever since, and I'm just sick of it. But I think the biggest disappointment in Sonic Unleashed is the lack of playable characters. Now, I know Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 did not do it perfectly. Yeah, there were playable characters, but I like the idea of playable characters, I just hated the execution, and so some people complained about that, and Sega got the idea that, oh, nobody wants these characters anymore, let's just scrap them, and that really annoys me. I wanted them to bring them back, but have, you know, have their own movesets, but have them share the same gameplay goal as Sonic. Just race to the finish. Like, why does Tails have to have all these annoying race segments? Why does Knuckles have to have all these stupid treasure hunts? They could have at least had those be side missions exclusive to the characters, but nope. So they thought we were better off without the characters. It's bad enough they didn't have a playable presence, but they barely have a presence at all. Only 2 of Sonic's friends show up in this game, and they sadly get overshadowed by a less desirable character. And I don't know. Anyways, before I get on to, like, the actual gameplay and all that, let's get on with the actual story of the game. And so, the game opens up very epically, where, I mean, if you didn't know any better, you can almost swear this is the final cutscene of the game, but, so, we open up where Eggman has, like, this giant, like, empire in space, and, Sonic shows up, and we get this awesome, lengthy scene of Sonic just, like, running through all the robots, fighting them all off, and, you know, to the point where Eggman's getting scared because Sonic's catching up with him. And so, Sonic turns into Super Sonic, and Eggman manages to corner Super Sonic and encase him in a trap. And so, Eggman then uses some kind of device that drains Sonic of his supersonic energy, or the Chaos Emerald energy, and he uses it to power a machine powerful enough to blast into the Earth and unleash Dark Gaia. Alongside, like, Dark Gaia is basically the main big villain of the game aside from Eggman. It's a giant, like, I guess kaiju, you could say. It's like an entity of darkness, the reason why night occurs, I guess. And so, alongside that, though, Eggman unintentionally splits the Earth into 7. They never made it clear if that was actually part of his plan, but either way, his plan was to just unleash Dark Gaia. But the strangest thing about this plot, though, is for some reason when draining all the Chaos Emerald energy out of Sonic, it turns him into a Werehog. Now, that really doesn't make much sense. So, yeah, I realize I forgot to mention the gameplay of Werehog. I guess I'll do that after I talk about the story, so that way I don't get sidetracked. But, so, I remember when Sonic Unleashed was first announced, you know, the big, shocking reveal was, oh, Sonic will be a Werehog in this game. Basically a werewolf hedgehog. And so, I remember, like, a lot of people were speculating this game was going to have a bit of a horror aspect to it. Like, the parts where Sonic turns dark, or turns into a Werehog would basically be kind of like an Incredible Hulk-like story where you can't control himself and, you know, maybe people would be after him. And unfortunately, it went a lot tamer than that. Sonic's practically unchanged when he's in the Werehog form. He just sounds a little bit deeper, and otherwise he's got the same attitude. The only difference is occasionally he howls. And they gave him very weird abilities, but like he can stretch his limbs and swing across things like Spider-Man. It's really weird. I don't know what Sega was thinking with the Werehog thing. I think it could have worked in another game, but as the plot is, it just felt very unnecessary. Like, I do think the Werehog design is cool and all, and there are times where controlling him can be kind of fun, but I'll get to that later. Anyways, the Werehog felt very out of place in this story. This is based, you know, like in Japan, the game is called Sonic World Adventure. It was kind of like a tribute to the adventure games, but with a new gameplay formula. And, so, the big difference in this game is day and night, literally. Sonic stages are like a traditional Sega Genesis gameplay merged with 3D. Sometimes it goes from a 3D aspect, but then it automatically swerves into a 2D side-scrolling format, and honestly, that really annoyed me at times. I know a lot of people praise that gameplay, but I thought it got real distracting, because personally, I enjoyed the 3D gameplay more. So it sucked when I was really enjoying like the 3D gameplay, then all of a sudden the camera swerves, and then I roll my eyes like, ugh, this again. And so the Werehog stages are purely 3D, but I'll get to that later. Anyways, so with Sonic turned into a Werehog, Eggman ends up ejecting Sonic down into, oh, what was it called? It was like the first level in the game. I can't remember its name, honestly, but anyways, Sonic ends up there. It's, and he runs into this new character made for the game called Chip. Sonic calls him Chip because he ends up liking chocolate chips on ice cream. But, so, Chip, he felt like a very unnecessary character. Like, I know a lot of people didn't like him very much, not only because he was kind of annoying. Like, he didn't bug me as a kid, but I'll admit, nowadays, you know, I noticed, like, his voice actor just didn't sound very fitting for this game, and I don't know, but Chip was just supposed to be, like, a happy-go-lucky guy who sees, like, wonder in everything he sees. He's always offering people chocolate whenever he meets them. That's, like, his running gag, and so, I don't know, Chip almost feels like he's supposed to be some kind of scrappy dude. He's some weird little chihuahua with fairy wings, and I don't know. There is a bigger twist on what he turns out to be, but for right now, he lost his memory, and Sonic is, thinking it's because he accidentally landed on him when he fell from the sky. And so Sonic decides to team up with Chip to try to help him out. Sooner or later, daylight rises and Chip realizes that Sonic isn't in fact a monster. He's a hedgehog who's been cursed into that form. So, I forgot to mention, he met Sonic when he was in his Werehog form at night, but... So, over the course of the game, a lot of stuff happens. Like, they notice something fishy going on with the town folk. This Sonic game has a very different setting where the characters look a lot like they belong in Pixar films, and I personally wasn't really a fan of that. Like, I'll admit it is kind of an improvement over, like, the uncanny human designs from Sonic Adventure or 06, but I don't know. I felt like the Pixar style just felt a little too weird. I don't know, I wasn't really a fan of the human designs in this game. I feel like there are better designs they could have used, but I just didn't like the over-exaggerated cartoony designs. The characters looked really bland to me, but... so anyways, Sonic starts noticing how, at night, the characters are acting different. Like, at daytime, he notices, like, how a lot of people are happy, and then all of a sudden, like, they have, like, this dark aura around them, and all of a sudden, like, they're depressed, and they lost hope and everything, and he starts to realize that it's the power of Dark Gaia. Dark Gaia, like, when he was unleashed, he spread, like, this, purple gas around the world, and it inflicted some people, and, keep in mind that when replaying this game, I didn't get to experience the story all the way through again, because, there's a number of reasons for that. So, I didn't start a new game, I just resumed, playing the levels I've already completed, because I still have my old save file, and, you know, that was really hard to pull off, so I do not want to start all over. And I unfortunately was not able to rewatch all the cutscenes from beginning to end, because this game had a really stupid way of unlocking cutscenes. Unlike the Wii and PS2 version, where you just get them for, either unlocking them or beating the game. This one, they require you to search through them in levels, and a lot of them are really hard to find. And it doesn't help that this is not the easiest Sonic game either. This is probably one of the last Sonic games to really have a hard challenge throughout. And there's a number of reasons for why it's challenging. Both the level designs, the controls, and sometimes the faulty game design just does not mix together very well. Not to mention the annoying QuickTime events. Yeah, this is a Sonic game that has QuickTime events, and has like the most annoying doorbell sound effect to go with it, and it doesn't give you much time to respond to a lot of these either, so some of these just come at you out of nowhere and you're not prepared for it, because you're too busy having fun with the rest of the gameplay, or maybe being too frustrated with the other gameplay. And so I remember, like, I can't remember what Sonic and Chip had to do to get like the darkness out of some of these people, but I remember there was a camera they had that allowed them to see like that there were Dark Gaia's minions being the ones responsible for that. So usually like Werehog Sonic would be the one responsible for freeing people from their grasp on Dark Gaia. So Chip would use the camera, take a picture, and he'd look at the photo to see like these invisible monsters that only Werehog Sonic can see, and so that's where like the night stages come in, and so the daytime stages has Sonic like rushing through the levels, blasting through like Eggman's robots, and then the nighttime stages has him fighting off the forces of Dark Gaia. So over the course of the game, we see Sonic run into Tails, and Tails unfortunately does not have a big role in this game. He kind of does at first though, like he's there alongside Sonic and Tails to help, Sonic and Chip to help find a professor who can help them on, like, where to find these, Chaos Emerald shrines. I forgot to mention that when Eggman, he drained the Chaos Emerald energy at the beginning of the game. So this is one of the few games where Sonic has all the emeralds to begin with, but they're powerless. And so they learn about these, emerald shrines, from this, weird professor character named Professor Pickle. And, he warns them how, there are these 7 temples across the world in different regions, and they have the power to restore the Chaos Emeralds. So, yeah, did I mention that Sonic Unleashed was considered a soft reboot after the disaster that was Sonic 06? I mean, even that alone was kind of itself a reboot, so Sega decided they should take the series in a different direction, and God, how many times have they rebooted the series after this? And anyway, so they had to go to the shrines to restore the Chaos Emerald. So like that's the big end goal after each chapter. After you complete like the Werehog and daytime stages, they'll get one of the Chaos Emeralds restored. And so usually there's a few boss fights here and there. Eventually Sonic runs into Amy at one point while he's in his Werehog form. She somehow accidentally mistakes him for Sonic, and then she thinks he's not Sonic, despite how he was all along. And for once, Sonic feels depressed that Amy didn't recognize him, so it shows that he kind of does care about her. Unfortunately, Amy does not get a whole lot in this game. Eventually, he sees that she's like she gets caught up with a bunch of these people who are possessed by the demons, and they're like dancing around, forcing her to dance with them. So Sonic is able to save her, but he manages to flee before she can you know, gain consciousness and see him. But so eventually she finds out that being was Sonic, and she wants to do her best to help him out. So she decides to team up with Professor Pickle. And unfortunately, she doesn't do much. She's just there to stand outside, and so you can talk to her, and she might give you a few hints on where to go next. Otherwise, it's like, when it comes to the story, though, she unfortunately has no big purpose, which is a real shame. And I remember originally when this game was announced, Sega mentioned how they were going to bring more characters like Knuckles and possibly even Shadow, and they were nowhere in the game, unfortunately. Just Tails and Amy, unfortunately, and they did not have a very big role, because I can't even remember what Tails is up to in this game. Basically, he's your pilot. He's the one who takes you from one hub world to another. Because the level select is a giant world map, and it does have hub worlds in the game. And I forgot to mention how the 7 levels in this game, it's kind of cool how originally they were supposed to be based on actual continents in the world, but in the end, like, while they still used the theme of that, they gave them their own name to fit in with the Sonic universe. So like Alaska is called Holoska, or China is called Chunnan. Yeah, you got like all these different levels, like United States is Empire City. And so the hub worlds unfortunately aren't very fun. Like, I remember thinking they were kind of cool back then, but nowadays I found them to be kind of empty. I honestly have more fun exploring the world in Sonic Adventure, even with its primitive graphics, but I just feel like there's more to do. Not to mention how the camera was less limited, and the characters were more free to control. Sonic moves very sluggishly when he's in the hub worlds compared to when he's in the overworlds. And so, eventually, the gang manages to get all the Chaos Emeralds back, and Chip gets like an important vision in one of the temples, and he gets his memories back and learns who he is, and it's revealed he's Light Gaia. Yeah, that felt kind of forced. So, that big dark entity of darkness, Dark Gaia, his polar opposite, the being of light, is a little chihuahua with wings. That was kind of weird. And so, I will admit, though, as much as I did not care for Chip, the scene, like, with him, you know, confessing to Sonic and, being ready to say goodbye and all that, that is a really well-done scene. Like, the animation's really nice, the music is really good, and that's another thing I forgot to mention. The music in this game is fantastic. Honestly, I think it's one of the best in the Sonic series. Like, the daytime stages of Sonic have, like, really nice, like, fast-paced beats, using different instrumentations, where it was, you know, this game relied on using a lot of live orchestration, where past games relied on, rock and roll, especially. You know, that got real distracting how, like, almost every piece of music you heard in Sonic Adventure 2 was rock and roll, and, I mean, Sonic 06 was a nice improvement. As much as people hated Sonic 06, the music in that game was really good. It had a nice variety of, live orchestric and sometimes rock and roll here and there, but, I felt like, Sonic Unleashed, it focused mostly on a live orchestra, giving this game a real cinematic feel, and so, like, the daytime stages are really fast-paced and energetic, and then the nighttime stages, they're usually more slower-paced, but jazzier. And, yeah, I love, like, both themes of music. They were great. So anyways, eventually, Eggman manages to build his own theme park, Eggman Land, which is, like, the real final level in the game, and boy, is it one of the hardest levels out of any 3D Sonic game. Like, it can take up to, like, 40 minutes just to beat this level, and I don't know how anyone's supposed to beat this without, like, dying, because there is a challenge in this game that, tries, challenging you to beat the game without dying, or collecting a certain number of rings, and it's like, holy crap, how can anyone do this? Like, I died, like, multiple times in this. And did I mention this is a game that still uses the life system? Luckily, there are some parts where Sega's aware that the game was a little bit too bullshit at points, and they do offer you free 1-ups at, like, just for restarting, but it just makes you realize, why didn't they just get rid of the life system? Why was it Sonic Forces of all games that got rid of it? That one was brain dead easy at times. And so, anyways, so Sonic manages to, reach Eggman while in the Werehog form, and he fights off like a really cool robot called the Egg Dragoon. The boss fight itself is not bad, but the only thing I really hate about it is the quick time event at the end. If you mess up, you're forced to start all over again. That's really unfortunate. So eventually, Eggman manages to like fully revive Dark Gaia, making him more powerful than ever. And so Dark Gaia not only betrays Eggman and knocks him out of the arena, but then he also manages to suck the dark energy out of Sonic, forcing him to lose his Werehog ability. We get this really cool scene where when Sonic's at a weakened state, Chip uses his powers to summon all the Chaos Emerald temples and basically merge them into a giant fighting robot. Or a giant, what's the word I'm looking for? A Colossus, that's what I'm looking for. The cutscene of that was really cool. The gameplay, unfortunately, was really bad. I will admit, as much as I hated the Wii and PS2 version of Sonic Unleashed, I will say they did the final battle much better. You're flying through the air, but at a really sluggish pace, and meanwhile, Dark Gaia is constantly hurling like these flaming meteors at you, and some of them you can dodge, but some of them they're really hard to dodge, so you have no choice but to try to hold the R button to charge his punch attack and then unleash it, but it's really hard to time that right because of how slow the punch is, and not to mention how fast the meteors can come hurtling at you. And then he has this laser attack that's really hard to dodge, and they say you have a block attack, but it's really useless. It does not shield you at all. And then when you get close to him, you have to do some really stupid quick time events, and then after that, it cuts like a bit where you have to control Sonic, and you have to rush towards Dark Gaia while dodging all these bullshit obstacles, and gotta keep jabbing him in his eyes, and then all of a sudden, it'll make you feel like, did I do something wrong? It feels like it just reset itself, and no, it's another phase. You gotta do all that all over again, but they changed the layout a bit, but it doesn't help that they use like the same voice dialogue.
Sonic, hit Dark Gaia's weak spot, quick, while I hold him back! Chip, you rock! Sonic, hit Dark Gaia's weak spot, quick, while I hold him back! Chip, you rock! Sonic, hit Dark Gaia's weak spot, quick, while I hold him back! Chip, you rock!
So you gotta do this shit like 3 times up until Dark Gaia gets a little more angry. He gets this really gruesome transformation sequence where like extra arms burst out of his body, like green blood starts oozing out, and it's funny how to think this is the only reason this game was rated E10+. It was rated E10+ for like animated violence, and this is the only, well, animated blood, and this was the only time we saw blood in the game. And he grows like an extra pair of eyes out of his mouth, and it's really gruesome. I gotta admit, it's a really creepy but cool boss design. I just wish his in-game model looked a lot better. Still an improvement over in-game model Perfect Chaos, though, from Sonic Adventure 1, but still a downgrade from, you know, the awesome cutscenes we got from Marza. And so, then, the Supersonic phase, unfortunately, is not better. I remembered actually kind of liking it in the Wii version, but here it's really frustrating, because not only do you have to look out for Supersonic, but you have to look out for Chip as well. And so, Chip is basically a time limit. There's like this giant barrier that Supersonic can't get through, but Light Gaia can. So, Light Gaia, he basically bursts through the shield and tells Sonic to take care of these worm things on the edge. And the controls here, and camera angle especially, are really frustrating. You're controlling Sonic like almost in like a Super Mario Galaxy-esque form, where it has like these 360-degree controls, and they're pretty annoying. And so you gotta keep like rushing into these snake-like beings, and they just keep like teleporting from one end to another, and so it takes dumb luck to win this. Not skill, just dumb luck. And then not to mention how you gotta collect rings before you start the battle. Unlike other Sonic games where it kind of allows you to collect rings during the battle, you only get to do that during like this little small segment where you are flying a Supersonic up, down, left, and right. So you gotta dodge these annoying meteors, and Dark Gaia dark energy things, and then you also gotta, collect the rings, which are really easy to miss. Like, I remember the first time I, attempted this, I didn't collect a single ring, so I was low on health by the time I got to the end, because Sonic starts off low on health, and you gotta collect the rings to refill his gauge, and then once you reach, Dark Gaia's, shield, that's where you can't collect any more rings, and you gotta keep flying around to destroy the snake things, and it's a really frustrating final battle. I had to do it so many times. To think, when I started Eggman Land, I had like 59 lives, and by the end of this final battle, I had like 30 lives left. Not including, and that doesn't include all the lives I managed to keep collecting, you know, because I was given some free lives like many times, but I was able to lose so many of them regardless, and hard to say how many times I died during this. And so eventually Sonic and Chip are able to defeat Dark Gaia, and so Dark Gaia, he's not dead though, but he's incredibly weakened, and he goes back into the center of the Earth to basically you know, rest for another 200 years, and then meanwhile the Earth is restoring back to its old self somehow, like it's connecting, and so Chip doesn't want Chip doesn't want Sonic to be trapped down there and die, so he pretty much throws Sonic up to safety. As we see Chip and his Colossus basically sinking into the hot lava of the Earth center. So I'll admit that's kind of a sad scene, mainly because of the music in the background. And so Sonic wakes up back where Chip, where he first met Chip, basically, and all that's left of Chip is the little ring he wore. And so Sonic takes the ring and wears it around his wrist so he'll never forget Chip. And meanwhile, we see that Tails is okay, because earlier there was a weird scene where he got shot down, and we don't see what happened to him. So here it shows, okay, Tails is still alive and his plane's okay. And we get this pretty decent song by Jared Reddick called Endless Possibilities, playing in the background, the main theme of the game, basically, and that's it. And also, we get a really nice song, like a really somber song called My Dear Friend during the credits. It's basically a song that's supposed to be a tribute for Sonic and Chip. Honestly, I think that song feels more deserving for, you know, Sonic's actual best friend, Tails, but whatever. And so, yeah, like I said, it's a shame that there's not an easier way to watch the cutscenes in this game. It sucks how you have to go to, there's like this, Arabic, themed level called Shamar. You gotta go to the hub world of that, and then it's hard to find the, professor's lair in there, because this level's like a maze. Everything looks so samey. It's just a very dry-looking level, and so, when you find his, lab, you can, go up to a TV and watch all the cutscenes, only the ones you've unlocked, though, and so I got quite a bit of cutscenes missing. I got, like, most of the good ones in there, though, but, there are 3 hidden cutscenes you can unlock in certain, I think you get them for completing certain world missions, and they're basically short films, silent short films starring Sonic and Chip, showing them goofing off in one of the regions. So, got like one where they're in the China level, and it's basically a parody of the dumpling fight scene from Kung Fu Panda. You got one where they're in the Adabat level, which is like a tropical themed level, and you see them getting into hijinks with some kind of coconuts. And then there's one where they're in the cold level, Holoska, and Chip's chocolate freezes and he wants to eat it, but it hurts because it's frozen. So it's like they're nothing special, but it's still kind of cool. The animation on them is nice. And so I've already mentioned how like the opening cutscene and like the ending cutscenes are really well done, like they're really well animated, really detailed, and so even the in-game gameplay models don't look bad. However, I do feel like there are a lot of shortcuts. Sonic 06 and Sonic Unleashed are really the beginning of that era where the Sonic games just lost their facial expressions. I mean, it's sad how even as wonky as they were in Sonic Adventure 1 or 2, it's still, there's no denying that the characters had much better facial expressions. Like when the characters looked sad, you really saw their eyes flex to give off that shape of sadness. And Sonic Unleashed, I didn't recognize it as a kid, but nowadays I can see how really bland and lifeless the characters are at times. There are a few rare occasions where the characters get more expressions, unfortunately mostly Chip, but like Tails, there are certain times where Tails' voice changes, but his face does not. So there are times where Tails sounds kind of confused or kind of, sarcastic, but his face does not convey it. Or same with Amy. Amy just has like a wide-eye expression throughout the game, so it's hard to tell when she's surprised or not. It's like, yeah, this game really... I mean, it's a shame. Like, honestly, the 3D models in this game are really good. Honestly, I'll say it's the best the characters have ever looked. Like, they really recycled the design for this in the other games, but they kind of modified it to either be lower poly or not as expressive, I guess. I mean, how can you make these less expressive models even less expressive? I have no idea, but there's no denying, though, that the cutscenes in Sonic Unleashed are still good to look at for the most part. Like, the lighting, the shading, the textures, it's nice, but, I mean, I'll even dare say it looks better than most games nowadays, especially better than the modern Sonic games. I remember, like, how Sonic Forces, they were making a big deal how it was an improvement over the Hedgehog engine and, you know, like, all the lighting and shading engines they use for, Sonic Unleashed, and I still find Sonic Unleashed easier to look at. It helps that it was enhanced for the Xbox Series X and S, so, I don't know. So, either way, though, like, Sonic Unleashed, it was an entertaining story, but there's no denying that it's flawed. I definitely liked the story better as a kid, but here I see how much of a mess the story really is. You know, there weren't enough characters, and for the characters who were in there, they didn't get enough to do, which is really saddening. But, like, the main conflict with Sonic and Eggman and Dark Gaia is really cool, but the Werehog felt really, really distracting. It did not feel like it belonged in this story. It just felt like a forced gimmick, which it really is. Okay, Sonic's a Werehog, which gives him extra strength at night. Fair enough, but all of a sudden he has stretchy limbs, and, I don't know. But, so, anyways, let's get on to the Werehog gameplay, the most infamous part of this game. So, like, personally, I do think that even the daytime stages have their flaws. Like, there are some of the later levels I absolutely hate revisiting, but the Werehog stages, the main reason people hate it is because of how slow-paced it is, where the daytime stages mostly focus on Sonic just blasting through stages or carefully treading some dangerous things that require timing and all that. The Werehog stages mostly relies on combat that, like, interrupts the gameplay so often. The combat honestly is not bad, though. It's honestly better than I remember. It plays very much like either a Dynasty Warriors game or a Devil May Cry Bayonetta-like game, where you have to press like certain button commands. My biggest complaint, though, is that there's no dodge roll ability. There is a shield ability, but it's very limited. You have to collect certain items that will allow you to refill the shield gauge. But being able to unlock the combos in the game is really neat. So I've already got both Sonic and Werehog maxed out. Like, when you defeat enemies in the game, you can collect these little shard things that kind of look like the money from Kingdom Hearts. And you store up on those, and you can exchange them at the end of a level to level up a character's stats. So I have my characters all maxed out. So I got all the hidden combos that the Werehog can learn. So you can do certain button commands, like in a fighting game, to pull off some really cool abilities. And unfortunately, a lot of them are either too annoying to remember, so it's like there's a lot of these abilities you're not going to bother using. And there are some moments where you can get a critical hit on certain enemies to trigger like a little quick time event to like kill the enemies faster, but most of the time it feels useless. Because it feels like you could have easily just skipped that and just risk using that time doing that slow quick time event and just feed him even faster. So yeah, it's kind of pointless, honestly. But they do reward you with bonus points. So if you're really wanting to get like S ranks on some of these levels, you're better off probably using those quick time events. I just wish it didn't give you so little time to respond. But the Werehog, for the most part, like, he controls fine, though, but, he moves a little slower. You can have him run faster, however, it sacrifices control. He can run on all fours to get, like, a bigger burst of speed, but it's not good for turning or anything, so you mostly want to use that when you're running, you know, away from cliff edges, basically, or if, you don't want to rely on sprinting too much, but, the jumping controls feel kind of unresponsive at times. Like, he does get a double jump, but the way, you know, you can't just, like, press it at any time. You have to press it at a certain time, and so it's easy to accidentally, mispressing the double jump when you meant to use it. And then you can use the B button to grab onto certain ledges, and sometimes that can act unresponsive. There are many times where I died because I was jumping towards one, but, the lock-on didn't show up, so fell to my death, and, And then the most annoying part of the Werehog levels, though, are the tightrope sections. So, luckily, the level didn't turn out as bad as I remember, but I remember one level I absolutely hated as a kid was the Empire City level. Like, it's still a pretty drag level because of how much of the tightroping it relies you to do, and one little slip up and Werehog will, like, fall to his death, and it's like a balancing act where you have to keep trying to move forward, but then, what makes it so frustrating, though, is not only the camera angles, but how you can't even rotate the camera to you know, if you could rotate the camera to align it straight behind Werehog, it would have worked, but because it's usually at like a dynamic or diagonal angle, it makes it so much harder to work with, and it gets even worse when eventually the ledges get spikes on the edges, so if you slip, you can't grab onto the ledge and pull yourself up, and then not to mention how later some of them will start collapsing, so you're forced to run across them, and yeah, it's hard, but I surprisingly did not die on it as much as I did back then, and I feel like dying in this game would have been more forgiving, not only if it weren't for the life system, but if it weren't for the checkpoints. The checkpoints are especially annoying in the Werehog stages, because sometimes it'll warp you back to like an enemy gauntlet, because usually before you progress, you get blocked off by enemies, and you're forced to beat them before you progress, but I think actually the most annoying thing of the Werehog levels, you know, the combat and tightrope sections are one thing, but what really ruins it is the puzzle solving at times. It just slows the game down. The puzzles aren't necessarily hard to solve, but there's no denying that even when you know what to do, they still take forever to complete. So there are many levels that I do not want to go back to ever. I think, in my opinion, the actual worst level now is Shamar, the desert level. It's not only annoying enough that there are these wizards that cloak themselves in flames, and the only way to attack them without hurting yourself is throwing barrels of water at them, where it's possible to accidentally destroy them all. So if you destroy them all, you're forced to attack the wizard with the risk of hurting yourself, because, you know, he's covered in flames and all that. But so that's annoying enough, but then the puzzles are really bad. There comes a point where you have to find like 4 little stones, and you have to put them back in their color responsive places, and that is really time consuming, and oh my god, I hate those parts. They just drag on way too long. So, yeah. I can see why people don't care for the Werehog that much. It can be fun in small doses. Like, I think the first few levels are good, and the music during these levels are good. I do think it gets annoying how every time the enemies show up, it keeps changing the music to this jazz theme. It gets kind of distracting, especially when you prefer the actual level music over the battle music, but otherwise, like, yeah, the Werehog design itself is really cool, especially in gameplay. They gave him, like, a fur render to make him look all fuzzy, and it's just so, bizarre looking for a Sonic game. And so, yeah, the Werehog, it was a cool idea, but poorly executed, and I feel like, it just, you know, it's like, it felt like it belonged more in a game where, if it was trying to mimic off, like, the Incredible Hulk, like, I felt like there was a lot more they could have done with it. I was expecting the game to be a little darker and more dramatic with the whole thing of Sonic being a Werehog, like, him not wanting his friends to see him like this, and instead he's still acting like his normal self, you know, he's still cheery, and it's just kind of laughably bad how, you know, like, Jason Griffith, who does a fine job voicing Sonic in this game, it's kind of laughably bad when he's voicing Werehog out. He tries making his voice sound deeper! It's just so laughably bad. I don't know. But he still tries talking like normal Sonic, but with like a deeper voice, so it just makes him sound like he's a children's entertainer at a party trying to do like a monster voice, or, you know, that's what it comes across as. And yeah, I might as well mention that, the voice acting in this game. So this was one of the last major games to use like the big 4Kids voice actors, aside from Sonic and the Black Knight, of course, but that's more of a spin-off than a main game. But so this one, it was one of the last to use the 4Kids voice cast, who, you know, a lot of people bash on the 4Kids voice actors, mainly because of their weird performance in the TV show and all that, and I felt like they were a mixed bag when it comes to the video games. I did not care for their voice as much in Sonic X, but in the video games, though, I felt like they had a little more range, but sometimes, you know, it just depends on some of their lines. Like, I felt Jason Griffith did it the best when it came to just voicing Sonic or Shadow, but then when it came to voicing characters like Jet the Hawk or Dark Spine Sonic, Werehog Sonic, I thought his voice work was nah. But you know, you got Mike Pollock, who does a great job as Eggman, as always. like, I love the portrayal of Eggman in this game. Like, it's a good mixture of his dark and sinister version from Sonic Adventure 2, but his sillier side from Sonic X, and it blends together very well. And nowadays, Eggman's just been a little too silly throughout. And, so, you know, this was the last time where Eggman was, like, great throughout an entire game. And, this also marked the first appearance of a prototype for Orbot, and back then he was more sarcastic and a smart aleck. He would point out Eggman's flaws. So, it's kind of sad how, when you see Orbot next, he's like a very timid and frightened character. And so, it makes you wonder, like, oh my god, what did Eggman do to him? It's like, clearly, he gave, like, Orbot such, like, a huge punishment, where, like, it's almost like you can see himself gloating, I'm gonna take away your sarcasm and make you fear me, or something, you know, and, he did something to his program to make Orbot a more timid, a more timid, more obedient creature who doesn't talk back as much, and, so we wouldn't see Orbot back until Sonic Colors, not only with a recolored design, but a sidekick in the form of Cubot, who, I personally like Orbot and Cubot. I know some people don't like them, but I think they're a great, both a great, sidekick and foil to Eggman, and, I like good henchmen. However, when it comes to the other voice actors, though, I do feel like they're a little distracting at times. I actually liked Amy, being voiced by Lisa Ortiz in Sonic 06. Sonic X, but, I don't know, I felt like her voice work could have used a little more work in this game, though. She is just always talking so loud and kind of squeaky, and it just got kind of distracting. I remember, like, in Sonic X, she could talk, although she did have her hot-headed temper moments, I liked how she sometimes had, like, a softer, gentler-sounding voice, and you didn't hear much of that in this game. It was mostly her just shouting. And then Tails, I don't know. I used to like Amy Pallett as the voice of Tails back then, but nowadays I think it's kind of distracting. I'm so much more used to, Colleen Shaughnessy as Tails, and I think she does a much better job. I even thought Kate Higgins did a slightly better job, than, the Sonic X version of Tails, but, I don't know. It's just kind of distracting. All I can hear is Hamtaro. But I think the biggest distraction in this game, aside from Chip's voice, is the townspeople. They are really distracting. It's like, you can tell, like, most of them are just voiced by Jason Griffith, Mike Pollock, or, Knuckles' voice actor, at the time, Dan Green, and it's just really distracting. They barely disguise the voices, so you can tell who they are, and it's just really distracting. It's like, they had so many voice actors to work with from other Sonic games. I couldn't have hurt them to get, like, Silver or Blaze's voice, or to voice on these characters. It's just so distracting. Not to mention how a lot of these voices do not sound like they belong with some of these characters. Like, you can tell they did not get actual, African Americans to voice the tribes from, the Matsuri, or Africa-based level, and so that's really distracting. I was hoping to do this a 2-in-1 video, but this video's almost reached like an hour length, so I'm gonna have to cut it short and upload my gameplay into a separate video, but I guess that's my lengthy, in-depth review of Sonic Unleashed. I'm sorry it took me so long to review this, but I remember someone asked me to review this once, or do a video on it, and, there were a number of reasons for why I couldn't do it. Back then, I couldn't do it because I originally had this on Xbox 360, but when I traded it in for an Xbox One, it wasn't backward compatible at the time, so I got tired of waiting, so I sold the game. And then eventually, of course, it came back for backwards compatibility, and ever since then, I just didn't bother rebuying it for some reason, for a number of reasons. Like, I was more accustomed to Sonic Generations, so I played that more. But, it's been a number of years already, and so I decided, let's revisit that game finally. So I rebought the game digitally for Xbox Series S, and I was especially more encouraged to try it again after hearing that it got the update to make it run smoother on the current Xboxes, so there's that. And so, this was both fun and frustrating to revisit. Like, there are parts of the game I actually do appreciate better than the original, but I was able to point out more of the flaws. Like, I knew back then there was something about this game that frustrated me, and it's nice to be able to go back to it and point out exactly what was wrong with this game at times. And so it's a very mixed bag. I don't hate the game, but I don't love it either. But there are a lot of greats about this game. I love the visuals. I love the music. Some of the cutscenes are really entertaining to watch, but you also have a lot of downgrades too. Like, I hate the side-scrolling portions. I hate the Werehog levels. The difficulty curve is just ridiculous. The quick time events suck. having the boost mechanic be the same as the homing attack gimmick is really annoying. I don't like the controls, the camera angles, the camera controls. Yeah, there's just a lot in this game that holds it back from being amazing, but I can see why there are people who still praise this game. I just don't think it's the greatest Sonic game ever, but it is one of the last great games along with Sonic Generations. I just felt like the only thing that could have made this game so much better is adding more playable characters. Like, how cool would it have been to be able to play as Tails, Amy, Knuckles, or Shadow in some of these levels, and instead it's just Sonic, and it's carried on ever since. Even when we do get more playable characters, they play more like Sonic. Like, the last time we got an extra playable character was Sonic Forces, and it was just for those cringy avatars who played nothing like Sonic gameplay, or Shadow, who played exactly like Sonic. Let us fly as Tails, let us hammer swing as Amy, let us glide and punch as Knuckles. Come on, Sega, come freaking on. It's been forever. And I have no faith that Sonic Frontiers will have playable characters again. It's just going to be Sonic in an open world. And imagine how much more fun an open world would be if we got to unlock more characters down the line. At least let us earn the characters. I can understand if you don't want us to play as Tails and cheat our way through the game. Fine. At least make him a game completion bonus or something. Come on, Sega, come on. Sonic Movie 2 is giving, the Sonic movies are giving the characters more love finally. They're finally giving them more screen time. They're making them likable again, unlike the modern video games where they're just Sonic's whiny cheerleaders. You know, I miss the adventure era. Even with its flawed voice acting and writing, the characters still had more to do and they had more of a personality. Let's see them modernize it and make it better like the modern movies did. Sonic Movie 2 did a great job with Tails and Knuckles, and hopefully they can do the same with the guest character who showed up at the end. Ugh, I am just so tired of how Sega runs these games now. It's horrible. Just horrible. Whew, got that off my chest. Sorry about that. So, yeah, anyways, that's my review for Sonic Unleashed. If I were to give it a ranking, I don't know, either a 6 or 7 out of 10. Like I said, I don't hate the game, but I don't love it either. It's a mixed game for me, but there are, I definitely still feel nostalgic about this game. Like, there are times where I want to go back and play it, and I can have fun, like, playing some of the earlier levels, mainly the first 3 levels, but most of the later ones do get really frustrating to the point where I don't want to revisit them, but it was kind of fun to revisit them after so many years, and there's no doubt that, despite how bad I was at the game back then, and still am, I can at least admit I think I'm better at this game now than I was. Like, I was able to learn from some of my mistakes back then, and so, yeah, there's that, but so, anyways, I'll probably have to upload another video or two to, show the other levels in this game, so this is going to be a pretty big, video series, I guess. So this first video is just my review for Sonic Unleashed, and then the other will be my gameplay with some commentary. I'm going to have to do a lot of trimming, though, because, there are a lot of times I died, and I don't want to show every time I died and got respawned to a checkpoint, so I'll have to trim, like, the parts that go by quicker, I guess, but anyways, that's all I have to show for now. Thank you for watching, see you next time, and have a great day.